I didn't know that was an option because it.
1, 2, 8.
Will the council come to order?
Well, they just.
The clerk, please take the roll.
Anderson?
Present.
Oliver?
Here.
Ford?
Here.
Hager-Smith is absent. Mattingly?
Here.
Sutphin?
Here. The mayor is out of town this evening, so I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. We will start with the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have item A, the town council minutes from November 5th, 2024, which we'll be approving. Item B, a professional construction Meadowview Drive Trail will be authorizing the acceptance by the town manager. Item C, the 2025 police towing contractor agreement. Our action there will be approval. For a resolution approving sewer specifications, and our action there will be approval. And then resolution 11C24, a resolution amending the 2024 by between ARPA fund projects. Before we proceed with the consent agenda, I have a statement to read. The Virginia State and Local Government requires that I make disclosure to be recorded in town records in any case in which I am forbidden to participate. Therefore, I make the following disclosure. The transaction involved is the approval of Resolution 11C24, the transfer of appropriate funds for ARPA. Interest affected by this transaction is my employment in Community Housing Partners, which would benefit if Resolution 11C24 is approved. While not obvious on the face of the resolution, the staff memo makes clear that CHP's legacy project will benefit from the action of C24. CHP headquarters is located at 448 Depot Street, Christiansburg, Virginia. I affirmatively state that I will not vote or any 11C24. Move item E, which is that resolution in question from the consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion on the other items on the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Oliver?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Mattingly?
Aye.
Sutphin?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Item.
I move approval of consent agenda item E, resolution 11C24.
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ford?
Aye.
Mattingly?
Aye.
Sutphin?
Abstain.
Watson?
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Oliver?
Aye.
Okay, that concludes the consent agenda. We have no to citizen wishing to speak. Please limit your speaking time to 3 minutes and state your name and address.
What up, Council? My name's Zachary Weiss, and I live in Blacksburg. I got a fortune cookie from Chinese Kitchen last week. If you know, you know. Their food is gas, by the way. This particular cookie reminded me to always say thank you. A similar thought was passed down by my grandfather to myself. So I thought to bring this issue up. This is what I'm thankful for. My family. I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak here. I'm thankful for friends. I'm thankful for food. We all knew those last 3 out of 4 options were coming, but did you expect that I'm thankful for electronic recycling? Freak parties with my alleged colleague, Sean Combs. Arg. After a hearty meal, arg. I'm thankful for farms that provide all of our food. And I'm thankful for the turkeys on those farms that provide our Thanksgiving dinner. Is it? The average sized turkey weighs 20 pounds, and 46 million turkeys are eaten every Thanksgiving by Americans. 181 pounds per capita. This means that we eat collectively and theoretically and hypothetically as Americans 5 million of our fellow brethren every Thanksgiving. What does this mean? Americans 1 million kilowatt hours to roast their turkeys this Thanksgiving, averaging 8 kilowatt hours per turkey roasted. It costs around $55.2 annually. So each family include the fixings. What does this mean for the climate? In contrast, the amount of energy used by Israel to defend itself since October 7th is just under this year to 21.145 million kilowatt hours over 1 year was calculated from tonnage of bombs dropped. It would take 20.87 more years of carpet bombs American weapons to equal the energy that it takes to roast 46 million Thanksgiving turkeys in 1 year. Given the ethical, climate, and human suffering issues, how do we choose which activity to pursue over the other? People relinquish this special holiday because of the energy use compared to bombing Gaza, a much greener option compared to Thanksgiving. To reduce energy use, consider choosing either of things now. Everyone needs to make the decision whether or not to put down the fork and bomb Gaza or pick up the fork and encourage peace. It's Thanksgiving. Should we celebrate this holiday? Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. We are still in citizen comments. Would anyone else like to speak? We will go ahead and close citizen comments. Move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business tonight? Seeing none, we have under new business one item, the introduction of the recommended capital improvement program. And I believe Mark.
So tonight we're presenting you the recommended capital budget for the upcoming 5-year period. So it should be in a binder in front of you. Site as well for the citizens. So the CIP is really the first step in the town's budget process annually. It's a 5-year look at our finances, and it also looks out at future equipment purchases for those well in advance. It also looks at the funding sources, how we're going to pay for those expenses, and starts to project out the budget impacts as we look out into the link between council's comprehensive plan, the town budget, and then also citizen feedback that we receive throughout the year helps us prioritize these projects. Just a quick background, we're looking at expenditure. We are expecting a little bit of growth continued in our expenditures next year, primarily personnel costs and benefit costs. We've been through a period of pretty high inflation back in October 22. Year over year in October of this year was 2.6%. And even though that inflation is coming down, we're still seeing in capital projects, at least in the bid environment, we're still seeing really high prices for design and construction of projects for some time. Part of that may be due to all the federal money that's been put out, and so there's a lot of projects to be done, and not that many contractors to provide those services. So hopefully over the next year or two, those costs will start to settle down. But we did take those costs into consideration when we were putting together the CIP. We also project out what our operating and capital cost increases are going to be over the next year. We looked at revenues, recent return from the lower levels we saw at the pandemic, and we are expecting moderate growth over the next year. We just had a reassessment in previous years, so we don't have another reassessment for a couple of years. So we're just going to see moderate growth from just new construction and spending in the community. This is a quick summary of the entire capital budget. This is a 5-year look. We have just under $170 million. About $68 million of those are in the general fund, and then you can see how it lays out in the other town funds that we have that provide our utility services. 19 of the projects are bonded or financed, and those are some of the larger projects that have a long lifespan, typically buildings or infrastructure that has a long lifespan. This shows it graphically. The general fund and the transit fund are the two largest when it comes to our capital projects. Most of the town's budget is funded by general tax revenues in the general fund. The transit fund is funded primarily by state and federal grants. And so most of those there are. This is just a highlight of some of the significant projects that you'll see. One of the major changes this year is we did have some discussions over the last year about our next large capital project priorities. In the past, we'd had a $24 million project for a large parking structure in the Progress Street parking lot. We looked at making that smaller, doing something more like an over-under deck there, which would reduce that cost to about $7 million. And then we're looking at package of improvements to our athletic fields. This would be both youth athletic fields, but also adult softball fields. And we put a rather healthy budget in both of those projects to make sure that we have enough money to do those when the time comes. Both of those projects are projected for about 3 years out, and we'll be working with the community over the next couple years to determine specifically what improvements we make to those athletic fields. That budget should cover whatever we want to do there. The Draper Road streetscape is still projected in the 5-year plan. We did the interim improvements this past year, so this will be the permanent improvements to Draper Road. We have a St. Luke and Oddfellows Hall restoration project. We've been working with the stakeholders group over the last year to prioritize which improvements need to happen and the level of improvement that should happen there. So we have a budget that should cover all of those recommendations at $187,000. Meadowbrook Trail is in there at $4 million. The first phase of that trail will be constructed with ARPA funds. The action you all just took in the consent agenda will fully fund that first phase of that project. This will be the second phase. South Point Community Park build out. That's to continue to put amenities out at the South Point Park on the south end of town. We have the downtown restroom still projected to be built in downtown. The downtown facade program, those are grants to help private businesses improve building facades, especially on the historic buildings. That's over the 5-year period, $250,000. We have continued funding to help build out the Brush Mountain Trail system, which has been a popular amenity for the community. And we also have a skate park expansion, expanding our existing skate park. So those are just some highlights of some of the more significant projects. We'll cover these and others in more detail in your work sessions over the next month. Looking at transportation, change improvement, and one of the differences you'll see, that was a larger number last year. What's happened that we have applied for smart scale funding for that project. That's design money that's in there now that we're expecting the construction money to be out of the 5-year period, so that's not showing up in this CIP. So that will be put in the CIP in future years to match up with that smart scale funding schedule. We have design money to start looking at pedestrian facilities along Glade Road. We have the Clay Street sidewalk and roadway improvements project that's funded. We're planning for a sidewalk along Mount Tabor Road to connect the housing developments further out Mount Tabor into Main Street. The priority sidewalk infill projects, that's a collection of sidewalk projects around town. We were originally planned on paying for those with ARPA funds. When we put funding into the other projects, so we're funding that out of the CIP with town funds now. So we've moved those into the town CIP. Roadway and trail paving, this is just a combination of all of our paving funds. Roadway paving is really more of a maintenance item, but it's a significant expense every year. And we have a schedule for when we pave our roads. We're also in the CIP starting to do the same things for our trails, so our trail behind, like it has been. We'll be doing a significant amount of trail paving with ARPA funds this next year, and then the trail paving project will keep our trails on a regular schedule to keep those up to date. And then bicycle infrastructure improvements, as Public Works is paving roads. This allows for striping and for them to make minor improvements on our roadways. Looking at utilities, we have several water, sewer, and stormwater improvements. These are just a few. The north side pump station force main relocation and the Harding Avenue sewer shed phase 2A. Those are both to add additional capacity to the town's existing sewer system, and our sewer system is aging. These are two water projects. One is a backup pump station for the North Main Street water tank. So we have a Even though that's outside of town, it's a town water system out there. And then these are just two of our stormwater projects, the Countryside Estate stormwater improvements, and then Draper Road and Miller Street, replacing the box culvert under Draper and Miller that is old. Transit, the bulk of our transit projects are replacing our buses, and we're replacing those with electric buses and then the electric charging infrastructure to go with that. Amenities such as bus pull-offs, and then the ITS system, that's the computer system that tracks all of our buses where they can monitor where the buses are on the road at all times. And this is just a collection of some of the maintenance funds that we combined. These are kind of aggregated, but you can see we spend a significant amount of funding on maintenance of existing infrastructure. That's roads, buildings, water, sewer, stormwater, also equipment depreciation in town, especially the Public Works Department. Our emergency services departments, police, fire, and rescue have a lot of equipment that is expensive, so we depreciate those pieces of equipment over their lifespan, so that and we put funds away for that, so when those pieces of equipment need to be replaced, able to do that. So this is the schedule we'll go through. So we'll spend the next about month and a half getting into more detail on these with council and the Planning Commission at your work sessions. And to highlight a couple dates, the town council will hold the public hearing on the CIP on January 14th, and then we typically vote 2 weeks later on that, and you all have the work session between those two meetings to discuss any public. So that's a quick summary of the CIP, and we'll go into this in more detail here over the next month and a half or so. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on this tonight.
Any questions for Mark?
Oh, I'd like to thank Steve and Matt and some of our finance staff members who put a lot of effort into getting this done. As you all know, our finance department is short-staffed. Our director, assistant director, and budget analyst positions are all vacant right now, so the workload shifted to some other finance staff members. And then all of our department heads who put these, and department staff members who put the projects together. So thank them this year.
It's a big job.
Thank you. That was the only item we had under new business. Do we have council announcements tonight?
I have a few. I just wanted to let us know that Lauren and I went to the Women's Conference. It was the 12th Annual Women's Conference in Roanoke this past Saturday, sponsored by Senator Warner, and I think we both felt it was really successful. There were hundreds of women there, a lot of great breakout sessions. Senator Warner himself spoke, and I personally came back feeling a bit energized.
Yeah, and Representative Jennifer McClellan spoke as well.
Yes, she was also wonderful. So I think everyone who went really needed a sense of solidarity and gathering, and there were women from all over the state there, and a few men too. But anyway, it was a good event. I want to remind everybody about our farmers market too. Not for food, but gifts, and it's amazing how many things you can find there. So again, don't just go shopping for feeding your stomach. Make sure you go and check out things as you're doing your holiday. On Wednesdays, at least this upcoming Wednesday, they're going to go into winter season soon, and on Saturday 9 to 2. So again, great stuff down there. And free parking downtown is going to start Sunday and last for a week, and that's part of
Shop Small Week instead of just Shop Small Saturday. We're encouraging our citizens to get out and support our small local businesses all week long and every day.
I don't think we're going to have another meeting before the Winter Lights Holiday Parade and Festival. That's going to be Friday, December 6th. So things that are happening on that Friday, again, that's not this Friday, but a holiday market starts 4 p.m. Santa will be at the Lyric Theater, 5:45 the tree lighting, 6 o'clock music provided by Tuba Christmas, and then 7:30, and that's a change from our usual time. 7:30 will be the holiday parade. In the past, it's been at 7. So inclement weather date for the parade is December 7th, the following day, but please do make a note if you're planning on coming down and being in the parade or viewing the parade, that it's a half hour later than it has been traditionally.
We are actively searching for the Grinch. There's been multiple sightings. All of that online.
Work session is 3rd, and our next regular meeting is Tuesday, December 10th. And with that, we are adjourned.